The NHL season starts this week, folks, and yet again, the Carolina Hurricanes are hoping to live up to their championship expectations that they have placed upon themselves and other folks have been placed upon them. But how do they do that? We talk about that in this episode of Locked On Hurricanes.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, Caniacs. I'm your host, Jared Ellis, and you're listening to Locked On Hurricanes on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this Monday morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you are listening. Thank you. And today's episode is brought to you by the lovely folks over at Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code Locked On NHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Now, the Carolina Hurricanes, they are yet again hoping to get over that hump of winning another Stanley Cup. And they have expectations to live up to this season. They themselves have championship aspirations. You know, the fans have that. The media has that. You look at FanDuel, their odds for the Stanley Cup, and this year they are number two, plus 900. Avs number one at plus 850, and they have these aspirations. They've been a model organization when it comes to consistency over these past 5 years, ever since they got over that playoff hump back in 2018, 2019. Ever since then, they have been that model organization of doing uh dang near everything right to build that team to win a Stanley Cup. Now, it is, we're 5 years in, to this now. And, they have consistently been very, very good. But like I said, they keep struggling to get over that hump. I've said in the past, they kind of remind me of the old Tampa Bay Lightning, where they're always so good in the regular season. But then come playoff time, they struggled some. Even Steven Stamkos, the hurt, I about said the Hurricanes captain, the Lightning's captain, when he was on Trip Tracy's podcast, I forget when, it was a while ago. He even mentioned how this team, reminds him of those Lightning teams. Yeah, I think that's a great compliment because the Lightning are another model organization of doing everything right. Even sometimes it annoys us and whatnot, but they do everything right. And the Hurricanes, they have those expectations to live up to, and they've built a really, really good team this year. And I want to look at what some things that it'll take for them to live up to these expectations. And the thing is, it's not like there's a whole lot of things they got to do because you look at the talent on this team. Big thing is just gonna be all these new guys meshing in well, and because they had yet another offseason of a lot of turnover, and give it the time it needs, for these guys to mesh together and do what they need to do. And starting off, we're going to start off with one that the Hurricanes are known for, and that is their defense. Defense really, just needs to remain strong this season. You know what they say, defense wins championships, and the Hurricanes have they always have one of the top blue lines in the NHL, and with that, comes penalty kill as well, because their penalty kill is also one of the top in the NHL. So if that can remain strong this year, that's going to be really, really important, because we've seen many times where the Hurricanes offense is struggling, and we'll get to that. And the defense, really keeps them in it. And in times, they're the ones that step up in the offensive side of things and, get the job done that way. We've seen that before. One I go back to a lot was the game up in Detroit. I believe it was last season where they won 1-0, and the one goal was from Brady Shea, which was also a power play goal. And again, we'll talk about power play more later as well. So, if the defense can remain strong, that's going to be really, really important. Again, it's already stacked, maybe a bit too stacked with all the pieces they have there on the blue line. Yes, they did just, and we'll talk more about this with the training camp roster update at the end of the episode. Dylan Coughlin was placed on waivers, so we'll see what happens there. Uh, but there's definitely going to be some question marks heading into opening night. Obviously, we'll get more of that as that day gets closer. They did have that training camp roster trim over the weekend, which, like I said, we'll talk about that at the end of the episode. So we're gonna know more as time goes on, but where these pieces are going to fall in is going to be very, very interesting. And one in particular I had um, noted down here is Tony D'Angelo. One, where is he going to fit in? Kind of don't know. He's not getting a spot back on that first pairing with Jacob Slavin. So where is he going to slot in? Yeah, he's not going to go on the second pair. That's going to be uh, Orlov and Pesci. If Pesci doesn't get traded, which at this point I don't think he will before opening night, that may be more of a mid-season thing. And then you look at the third pairing. Okay, then you got Brady Shea and Jalen Chatfield there. Where are these guys going to slot in? That's going to be really, really interesting. And a thing with D'Angelo is, can he improve defensively? Now, I don't expect him to be Jacob Slavin level. I don't. But the thing is with him, yeah, he has some upside up offensively, but defensively, he can be a liability. We've seen it before, when he was here, saw it a lot last year when he was in Philly. So, can he improve defensively and not be a slice of Swiss cheese? Plain and simple, because he's not going to be able to hide behind Jacob Slavin this year. That's Brent Burns' spot now. He's not giving that up. And so that's gonna be interesting to see how that shakes out, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. Again, they have so many pieces there. I don't even know what it's going to look like. Like I said, Cogman's placed on waivers. Really wasn't expecting much out of him anyway. So, frankly, I'm surprised it took this long. But that is what it is there. And another thing with the defense, which I mentioned already, is its offensive capabilities. Like I said, we've seen where it has bailed the team out before in that regard. But your defense can't do everything, but it needs to have that capability, and that's something that still needs to be there this year. You know, you see what Brent Burns can do offensively. What Brady Shea can be capable of. I mentioned Tony D'Angelo. Yeah, he has offensive upside as well. So we'll see what things happen there. And then of course you got Dmitry Orlov now as well, and just how all these pieces are going to fit together is going to be very, very interesting to watch this season. Now, much like last season, I expect some growing pains, with these guys, with so many new guys, coming in. I fully expect that. I think we all do. We're not expecting them to go 82-0. You know, we're not expecting that. So there's going to be growing pains, for these new guys coming in. And it's the beginning of the season. They were off for months. They're going to be a little rusty. And yeah, you had your preseason training camp, but that's different compared to a regular season game. So we're just going to have to wait and see when it comes to some of this stuff of how these things are going to mesh together. But again, really big thing here is just going to be that blue line remaining strong, remaining one of the top in the NHL defensively. And I also wanted to keep that offensive power that it is known to have because it's bailed them out a lot in the past. But we're talking about offense, and yeah, that tends to be the Hurricanes' Achilles heel. And we're going to talk about that and what needs to happen there, along with the power play, kind of lumping that together. And we will talk about that right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, the NHL season is finally here. Will the Vegas Golden Knights reign supreme again? You guys know I love the NHL, and I know you do too. And that's why I want to tell you about Sleeper. And Sleeper is my go-to platform for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you have a chance to win 100 times your cash on daily fantasy. I love playing fantasy, whether it's fantasy football, fantasy basketball, and fantasy hockey. I love it. The NHL has never been more exciting than it is now with players like McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby, McCarr, and of course, on the Hurricanes, you have Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Andrei Svechnikov, Jacob Slavin. Simply select more or less based on their stats, such as goals, assists, points, saves, and more. Yes, you heard me, Hurricanes fans. Sleeper offers 100 times payouts. So start paying attention, make the right picks, and you could win big. Now, folks, again, I love playing fantasy hockey, again, fantasy football, fantasy basketball. I love this stuff, and I'm really looking forward to using Sleeper this season. And right now, you can use the promo code Locked On NHL, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL, LOCKEDON NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for full details. Now, getting back to the Hurricanes' offensive uh, issues, that's honestly my biggest thing for this season. What it takes for them to live up to expectations. Like I said about the defense, we know that's going to be good. We know that, plain and simple. The offense is going to be the big thing, and the power play at to an extension as well. Those are going to be really, really big for the Hurricanes this year. And we know it can be done. It's not like it's completely inept offensively. No, they obviously have a good offense to be in the position they're in for the past 5 years. It's got to be good. So it's just it needs to be more consistent. That's going to be really, really important because said many times over the years, there are times where this offense dries up like a bad Thanksgiving turkey. And yes, I know over the course of an 82 game season, that kind of thing is going to happen. Plain and simple. That's going to happen with every team in the NHL, from the Hurricanes to the Capitals, to the Wild, to the Kraken, to everyone in between. That is just something that's going to happen. You're going to have your offensive struggles throughout the season. But with the Hurricanes, it is starting to get a bit old. And again, that happening in November, yeah, it's frustrating, of course. But what I'm really getting at here is when it's happening in April, that's when we need this offense to not be a bad Thanksgiving turkey. That's the time where you need, yeah, the Thanksgiving turkey, that is, in all the commercials, on Food Network, all of that stuff. The one that takes you to Flavor Town. That's the offense we need from the Hurricanes come playoff time. We need Flavor Town offense. That's what I'm calling it this year when their offense is doing good. Flavor Town offense. But that's going to be a big thing here. And yet again, they did not go out and get a pure goal scorer in in the offseason, free agency, trade, whatever. That has been something we've been saying they need to do for a long time now. I completely respect them wanting to, put that load on their guys. You know, Sebastian Aho, Andre Svechnikov, it's their team. And they have shown the capabilities of doing that. Sebastian Aho, he can be that 80 plus point guy, and that's what we need from him this year. And it's they need guys to take those steps forward. And all these guys are still really, really young. I believe Sebastian Aho, we're talking about him right now. And, we're going to just look at him over the past couple seasons. And, he's still, 26 years old. I'm older than him, and he's 26 years old. He's in his mid 20s. These guys are still learning and growing. Sebastian Aho, he had 67 points last year. He only played 75 games. The season before played 79 games, had 81 points. He's crossed that 80-point mark multiple times in his career, doing it again in 18-19. Obviously, they had the shorter seasons in between there. Let's see him get back to that level. We know he can do it. We've seen it happen. So that's what I'm looking for from him. And, he's supposed to be the guy. We know he is, and we know he can do it. I just want to see it. He's done it before. I want to see it again. These guys, they constantly talk about, how frustrated they get with losing. I want to see him play with that fire. That's what I want to see this year. I want to see, hey, we've made the playoffs for 5 straight years, and we can't get over that hump. I want to see them, like men possessed out there. Sebastian Aho, I want to see him go on another all-star level campaign. He's done it before. I want to see him do it again. Martin Necas, he had a career year last year. Better than anyone could have expected out of him, with the season prior to that being really disappointing for him. So I want to see him, continue to build off of that career year that he had, because man, you get another guy like that in there that can produce offensively like that. That's going to be fantastic for the Hurricanes. He had 70 plus points last year. I want to see that again from him. And obviously I'm not saying these guys need to be 100 plus point players. It'd be nice. Ain't no one gonna say it wouldn't be nice, but I just want them to have that consistency and have that fire, that playmaking ability, which we know they have. I just want to see it be consistent throughout the year, especially towards the end of the regular season into the playoffs. Andrei Svechnikov, he is another one. He can be that guy. He had an all-star caliber season last year before he tore his ACL, I believe it was. And I want to see him come back with a vengeance, pick up where he left off. Again, I fully expect a little bit of rust. It's fine. And honestly, it's getting to the point where I really don't even know if we're going to see him on opening night. Last I saw, he's still in that yellow no contact jersey in practice. And, opening night would be 7 months to the day of the injury. And the time frame was 6 to 9 months. But one thing that was mentioned in the Hurricanes article, I believe it was like 5 questions heading into the season or whatever, was Max Pacioretty, how he came back early, and then you see what happened there. That's definitely somewhere where I'm at. Like, hey, I don't want that to happen to Svetch. And if he needs to sit out another month or whatever, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with it. Yeah, it'll suck not seeing him on opening night or whenever. But at the end of the day, I would rather not have him at this in October and November rather than not have him in April and May. That's where I'm at with that, and love to see him, but if he needs more time, then he needs more time. But when he comes back, I want to see him come back and really pick up where he left off, because he was taking such a big step forward last year in what he was doing out there on the ice. Just like we've been saying, you know, with these young guys taking those steps forward season after season and growing as players, growing as leaders on this team. That's what I want to see continue from Svetch whenever he does come back, whether it's opening night on Wednesday or a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it may be. I want to see him, come back and pick up where he left off. Again, fully expect some rust at first, but I want to see him play like a guy like, hey, I had to sit out while my team went to the Eastern Conference final and we got swept again. That ain't happening. I want to see him, be like Aho, be like Nate, just really just put the team on his back and it not be a thing of where the opposing team is like, oh, we're gonna focus all in on this guy. Be like, no, we gotta focus on this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy. And that's what I'm really looking for Svetch this year. And he has it in him, just like Aho, just like Natchez. They have it in them to be even better than they already are. And I really think that this could be their year. I don't want to sound like a sorry, to Jess from Locked On Flames and any other fans out there. I don't want to sound like a Dallas Cowboys fan where it's like, oh, this is our year. I don't want to sound like that, but I really think the team that they have built this offseason, I think it is probably one of the deepest ones they've had in recent years. Just the talent they have on there, the way guys are improving. They have a good mix of veterans and young guys. Their core guys like Aho, Svetch, Natchez, Slavin, those guys still young. Yeah, and then they have the experience on that side of things too. Like it just feels like it is the perfect recipe for them to finally get that home, to be that Flavor Town Thanksgiving turkey. It feels like this can be that team on paper, but we got to get to the season. And another couple other guys, Seth Jarvis, he's continuing to improve. I want to see that continue. He's in a fantastic place to learn and do it, so I'm fully expecting it out of him. I'd like to see him, just again take that step forward in his career. Again, he's still super, super young. Just turned 21. Like, he's going to make kid mistakes. It's gonna happen. He's 21 years old. It's gonna happen. But see him, continue to improve season after season. He's last year, I know he finished, I think, with a couple less points, but honestly, it didn't really matter because he improved so much out there on the ice in terms of just his overall game, and I want to see that improve. Teuvo Teravainen, a guy, we've talked about for a potential trade. Yeah, he definitely feels like he's starting to take steps back. He's obviously been around for a long time. So we'll see what happens there if he gets traded or not. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. Much like Brady Shea and Brett Pesci, those guys are in final years of their contracts, UFAs. We'll see what happens, with those. But I'd like to see him, improve a bit this season. I'm not talking like a improvement like we saw from Natchez from last year. I'm not talking about anything like that. If it happens, I mean, great, fantastic. No one's going to complain here. But see some improvement there. Jesper Kotkaniemi, see him continue to grow as that second line center. He's slowly getting there and improving. But definitely, I feel like he's still under a microscope. From how he was acquired to come here. And, you look at his contemporaries from that draft being on the team with him. Uh, you look at that, and, I do feel that, that may add some pressure on there, at least from the outside looking in from expectations that are being put on him. So I do want to see him continue to improve, and I think he will. He's got his home long term, and like I said, the talent that they have made or have put on this team, I think, is something that can really help all of these guys, continue to improve and get better. You look at his head coach, fantastic centerman in his day playing, and you look at Sebastian Aho, that was something that really, I think, benefited Sebastian, was Rod Brind'amour being his head coach and being able to work with him on that center position. And I think, that is something that's going to continue to be something that, Spirit Coach Kanyemi improves that. Then you look at his captain, Jordan Stahl, another phenomenal center. So that's going to be great for him there. And then finally, just a quick mention here, Jordan Martinook, he had a career year last year. He was able to stay healthy for all 82 games. And then you saw what he did. He had a monster year. Yeah, I know it's not going to be like an 80, 90, 100-point season or anything like that from him. That's not his, that's not him. But yeah, he set career highs in points and assists last year. I said it was going to be a career year for him pretty early on in the season, just the way he was rolling. And I ended up being correct in that. I want to see him continue that momentum. I think really the only thing standing in the way of that is just him staying healthy. If he can stay healthy, we're going to be golden there on that third line with him, Jordan Stahl, and Jesper Fast. We're going to be golden if Jordan Martinook can stay healthy. I think he'll be able to. But ultimately, we're just gonna have to wait and see on that. But the Hurricanes over the weekend, they did trim their training camp roster down to 29 players, and we will. I want to take a look at that and just kind of what we're learning there, of kind of what we can expect about this team coming up for Wednesday. And we will dive into that right after this quick break, folks. Now, folks, passion, drive, and patience are what bring home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, whatever, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is always guaranteed for your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Now, folks, one thing we're going to start doing here this season on our Monday episodes is talking about things we learned about the team over the weekend, whether it be games, practice, whatever. But the big, and I kind of usually want to have maybe about 2, 3 things or whatever. But this time, we got the one, and it's a big one. And that was the training camp roster update. I have that here over on my other monitor, and we're going to dive into this. Uh, we have, we're going to start at the top, of course. And like I said earlier, I will mention Dylan Coughlin here, but yesterday he was placed on waivers. Not surprised there. We'll see what happens. If he does clear, I fully expect him to just go to the AHL. That's where I'm expecting him to go. What team? I don't know. Waddell said, when it comes to Kochetkov, they got a team figured out already. I've seen where some guys have already gone there and they're just kind of getting scattered about, which is kind of what I figured. But diving into this, we have Jalen Chatfield, Caleb Jones, Dimitri Orlov, Brent Burns, Jordan Stahl, Dylan Coughlin, Jack Drury, Sebastian Aho, Brett Pesci, Steph Nathan, Seth Jarvis, Brendan Lemieux, Felix Sorum, Andrei Svechnikov, Jordan Martin, Michael Bunting, Ryan Suzuki, Jesper Fost, Jacob Slavin, Brady Shade, Tony D'Angelo, Jesperi Kokanyemi, Tavo Teravainen, Martin Natchez, Dominic Fensor, Vasily Ponomarev, and then in the goalies, Frederick Anderson, Antti Ranta, and Pyotr Kochetkov. So, yeah, you look at all of these, you're pretty much kind of feeling what this team is going to look like. Yeah, I think this is pretty telling. I know with Sorum, I kind of expect them to do that. What is it, 9-game trial or whatever? Brind'amour had already mentioned that as well. I don't believe he said that whether or not they were going to do it, but I'm kind of expecting that from him. Yeah, the kid is 18, but he has really stood out in preseason and training camp. So I think that's the route they'll go with him. As I mentioned, Coughlin has already been placed on waivers, so you can kind of just go ahead and scratch him off of this. Ryan Suzuki, he's a guy I think he'll. I think honestly he'll probably get sent down. Yeah, he did have that. Believe it was a shoulder injury from that final preseason game, but it was nothing serious. But I kind of expect him, to just be the guy that gets sent down. I know when it comes, and in the that article that I mentioned about the Hurricanes earlier, those 5 questions, he was kind of mentioned as an outside shot of that for that fourth line center. A lot of folks, thinking that'll go to Jack Drury now with Paul Stastny not coming in or not coming back, excuse me, which I could totally see that. I think last season, everyone's kind of having him as a lock to make that opening night roster, but he was kind of back and forth. He was another guy that's in that mix for that fourth line center role. So we'll see what happens there. Honestly, I'll probably go with Drury, but we're just gonna have to wait and see there. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the biggest question mark here with this is simply going to be what are they going to do defensively? You still have Caleb Jones on your roster as well. What are you doing there? Or what are you gonna do with him? I know he's not a defenseman, but Brendan Lemieux, he's another guy. Where exactly does he fit into all of this? Um, so it's very, very interesting to see what's going to happen here. Uh, and because so many positions feel like they're already locked up. And, we'll talk about, predicting opening night roster and whatnot later on in the week. But you look at this, there are definitely some big question marks, because because like I said, so many of them, like, all right, Sebastian Aho, he's gonna be your number one center. Yeah, Spirit Cook Kimmy is gonna be your number two. Jordan Stahl is gonna be your number three. So much of the roster is already pretty much locked up. You know what it's going to be. And it's these other ones that are really, really interesting to see what happens. And also, just quick sidebar here as I look at this, the birth dates on the goalies 1989, 1989, 1999. Oh, man, we're starting to feel old, folks. But even though I was born in 96. But, you look at some of this stuff, this is gonna be a really interesting next couple days to figure out what they are exactly are going to do with their opening night roster because they're so deep, it's almost becoming a problem. And it's a good problem to have. I'm not gonna say that because we've all know the times when the Hurricanes were not a deep team, when they had a glorified AHL fourth line, glorified AHL third pairing. We all know those days. Uh, and yeah, it's interesting here to see what exactly is going to happen with this opening night roster. And I want to know y'all's thoughts on this. Who do you think is going to make the cut? Who do you think is going to get sent down, placed on waivers, traded, whatever? Let me know, whether it be on social media at LO_Hurricanes or my personal at Jared Ellis _96. Let me know, guys. And like I said, later on in the week, we are going to be predicting the opening night roster. That's going to be fun and a headache, but I want to do that because I have some thoughts. And again, I want to know y'all's thoughts on that. So make sure you let me know. And thank you again for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of this Monday afternoon, morning, evening, whenever you're listening. Doesn't matter. Thank you very much for making us your first. And I will talk to you guys in the next episode. As always, never forget, let's go Canes.